Hey guys, what's up? Hey Melody, hey Peace, hey Kayla. All right, you ready for some sharks? Hey Melody. Oh, of course, I ended off in the middle of a chapter. So we're still on the search part 1. And then 6 is the police. Hey SD. I can't believe there's no Diet Coke. I don't even know what to say. I'm so brokenhearted. I'm still drinking Pepsi. It's just not the same. And Diet Pepsi sucks. I don't like it. It tastes weird. Yeah, I love Diet Coke and Coke Zero for the taste. I don't know. Hey, hi guy. Oh, of course, Kayla. Absolutely. Yeah, it is too much. I don't know. I haven't read it, so I'm not sure what I'm getting into. All I know is that we're on the search part 1. And this is just them looking for Adam still. Hey Kira. Last night I was doing a video. I started screaming and standing in my chair. My husband ran in. I told him I heard mice. Oh no. He said, honey, it's the wind blowing and acorns are falling. That's funny. Oh my god. It's okay. I was telling people earlier that there's a tornado coming. I'm gonna die. There's like there's nothing. All there is there's a rain warning. Hey, Inspiration. Hey, Lena. Trying to see what the red warning is, though. Does that mean just a lot of rain? I don't know. Hey, Cool Gamer. Hey, Deb. If anybody see, like, if anyone of you mods see Gamer Guy, he was in here last time. I remember he just kept posting 11111 and then saying he was like a Katie Joy fan and all this. He was just annoying the hell out of us. I think he's blocked, but if he's not, if he comes in here, just block him. I don't know what the hell's going on with him. He's usually pretty good, but he was in Cindy's chat yesterday and was just doing the same thing. Mod me, mod me, mod me. I'm a good mod. I'm a good mod. I'm a good. Just kept going, 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 going. It was driving everybody nuts. All right, I'm gonna start reading, and oh, I hope Sayla shows up. If not, I'll just read anyways. I don't want to keep. I just don't want to hold it up because I missed that 1 week. It's not her fault or anything. Absolutely not. I just mean that me just reading this book once a week, it's like hard to get back into it again and figure out where we were, what we were talking about. I'm sure she'll come soon. There's been a lot of acorns this year, nonstop for about a week or so now. I think the squirrels are throwing them at the roof because I haven't refilled the bird feeder yet. Well, then you better fill it up. They're pissed. They want their damn bird feeder filled. Oh, he just needed some herb. All right, I'm just going to get into this. So Reve is John Walsh's wife. Reve understood what I was trying to say to her. I don't know if it helped. I know that it was true. In bad situations, husband and wives tend to blame each other. That's a common thing. It just happens. And I don't know why. Maybe because we were so preoccupied in the search, so lost in the fear, but for some reason, it didn't happen to us. Maybe it was because we both realized that we were each the only thing that the other one really had. Yeah, I know. Like, I'm laughing so much because, so my sister and I, when she used to live in this apartment, she had a balcony. It was like only 3 stories up. And the neighbor right beside her, he's he was an alcoholic. Like that was his life. Well, when he was walking to the LCBO, we started throwing acorns at him. He's like, oh wait, sorry. Me and the neighbor, my sister's neighbor, were chucking acorns at my sister, and she was walking to go to the LCBO. We were sitting on the balcony, and she's looking up and around trying to figure out what's going on. She comes back to the apartment. She goes, I am telling you, squirrels and chipmunks are throwing acorns at me. She already had a few to drink, so it was hilarious. So because of that, my sister and I kept leaving like pine cones on his balcony. Blamed it on squirrels. Reve said that. Sorry. You know what those squirrels do in Toronto? So I went to go visit my dad one time, and he was trying to tell me that these squirrels hang upside down by their tails. I was like, no, they don't. He goes, yeah, they do. I'm telling you. They get drunk off the fruit and they hang upside down. They're idiots. Like, that's not very nice. So he actually showed me. There was like these 3 squirrels hanging off of like a telephone wire, kind of swaying back and forth because they were hammered. I'm just like, what the fuck? What's in this fruit? Where are they getting this fruit? Like, this is crazy. But apparently they can get drunk off fruit if they eat too much. I didn't know that. I honestly thought he was messing with me, but I've never seen anything like it. Hey, Kinsey. Reve said that she did not feel guilty, that she was not going to put that on herself on top of everything else. We didn't spend a lot of time talking about what if this or what if that. We would talk, but it was always around what we could do. We would say things like, tomorrow we're going to do this, or I can't sleep, so lie here right beside me. It was excruciating to have to lie next to Reve and try to pretend that our whole life had some normalcy. She couldn't sleep, I couldn't sleep. If she did drift off, she would start to thrash, and I would know how much she was suffering. She was tortured because she was his mother. I was tortured because I was the husband and the father, the protector, the man. I was the one with the worldly business, connections, and the power. I was doing my job, which was to fight. Reve was doing everything she could, but her job was different from mine. She was Adam's mother, and it was her job to stand here, not necessarily say anything, just with her presence, asking the questions that needed to be asked. Where is he? Why isn't he back? He's my son. Why haven't you found him? What is this? Why haven't they caught the person? Why isn't Adam here? The toughest thing was not letting her know how afraid I was. It was my job to go out and deal with the police every day, to demand to know what they were doing and why they weren't doing it faster. Because I sure as hell weren't going to pay any attention to Reve, it was easy for them to turn their backs on a woman, a weeping mother. But they had to listen to me. Me, they had to give an answer to. How many more posters do we need? How is that going? I thought you were going to take care of those. Let's have another meeting. During the search, I spent most of my days on the 3rd floor of the Hollywood Police Department, with its beige walls and tile floor and smell of disinfectant coming up from the holding cells on the floor below. I had no sense of the passage of time, whether it was day or night. The room was stuffy and completely airless, but being there was still better than being at home. Going home was unbearable. I wanted to be in our house, but the only reason to be in it is if Adam was going to be there. That's what that house had always been about. Without him, it was just a place to go, only a lonely place to remind me of how hurt I was and how destroyed I was becoming. It was agonizing to be in it. The only real reason for going there would have been to welcome Adam home. I kept thinking of that big news story from a few months before, the story of a little boy in Italy who had gotten stuck after falling down a well, and whom no one could seem to extricate. For a while, the papers were full of the story, and Adam was concerned about it. He would say, "Don't worry, Dad, they can rescue him. Why don't they just drill in sideways? Then he could get him out." Every day, Adam would ask me what had happened to that little boy. I never had the heart to tell him that he died. It was all wearing on me. Everything was taking a physical and terrible toll. I was scared, tired, angry, and I couldn't keep anything down. It was agony. It was like being in hell for my whole life, for eternity. Well, can you imagine what your son's feeling? Like, no offense, but not everything's about you, John. I'm sorry, but he just gets to me sometimes. You made friends with a chipmunk once. We were hiking one of the local falls, and this little tiny chipmunk followed us all the way down. Oh, did you shake his hand? Their hands are so cute. Just kidding. The best laugh here today. Oh. And all the while, we never turned down an interview request from the press. Not one. No matter who wanted to talk with us. If it could help get Adam back, we would. We would let them into the house, cry for them on camera. We would take them into Adam's bedroom and let them take pictures of the wicker basket where he kept all the little clay figures of monsters that he had made. But after a point, finally, Reve said that she had had enough. She would not cry in front of them anymore. I don't know if that ultimately worked against her or not, because the news crews always loved it when they could get her crying on camera. I always imagined them going back to their houses and saying, hey, going back to their bosses and saying, hey, I got the scoop. You want to see Reve Walsh puking and crying on camera? Reve would stand there trying to keep it together under the lights with all of them watching her. And if she started to break, if she reached up once to wipe away a tear, all you could hear was the massive clicking of camera shutters. So at some point, she made a vow to herself, and that was it. It probably hurt her in the end. People said she was cold and distant and wasn't acting the way they thought a grieving mother should. The way she saw it, someone had already taken her son. The only thing she had left was her dignity, so she made up her mind she wasn't going to let them see her cry anymore. It was Reve's own personal fuck you. Within the first week, a search for Adam was being called, the largest of a massive missing child that had ever taken place in South Florida. By the following Monday, August 3rd, our reward was up to $100,000 collected and donated by my business partners. 250,000 flyers had been distributed. We had ordered 300,000 more. That morning, Reve and I went on television again, this time on a Miami station. Reve sat with one of Adam's stuffed animals in her lap. I told everyone, I don't want to prosecute. I don't want revenge. I just want my boy back. I remember being at Monahan's house with Les one night during the search. We were upstairs and started talking about Peggy's death, about how hard it had been, and about God and faith. That week, Monahan, who always described himself to reporters as Adam's uncle, told them that the search was the only thing maintaining the Walsh's sanity. Reve and I were not the types to sit and cry, he said. We were activists by nature. Thank you, Brenda. I appreciate that. Thank you. Hey, Amanda. Hubby won't let me touch the wildlife. Just because you want to hug them doesn't mean they want to hug you. What a joy killer. Oh, I know, but they're just so cute. At the time, hope was a precious commodity. We clung to it because it was all we had. Even in the physical world around us, things were deteriorating. Bills were going unpaid. No one was sleeping. Graham says that she doesn't remember getting undressed and going to bed once during that time. Instead, she would lie down with her clothes on at some point during the night and listen to everything that was going on in the house. Then, before dawn, it would all start again. We're all trying so hard to keep up the front, at least to outsiders. On July 30th, it was Joe's 23rd birthday. This will be a hell of a birthday present, he told the reporters, holding up the picture of Adam in his baseball hat. To get this little guy back. Hey, Mama 3. I haven't read much. Yeah. They're still looking for Adam at this point. We're on the search part 1 still. One night, Jeff and Les got some kind of crazy phone tip and went to check it out. Turned out to be nothing, of course, but somewhere along the way, They saw a big red brick building, maybe an old Coca-Cola bottling plant. They looked around and realized they were in the middle of an abandoned empty warehouse district and somehow got the idea that this would be a great place to stage the party we were going to have. It was the only kind of place that would be big enough to hold all the people who were going to be there to celebrate when we got Adam back. We were not aware of it at the time. We couldn't be. We were wrapped up in our own nightmare trip, fighting for air. But around us, everywhere, there was a new kind of fear. In the Publix grocery store at the mall, mothers were holding their kids' hands so tight they turned blue. In the shopping mall, the Sears store, you could hear parents screaming at their kids to stay close. Up until now, there had been a kind of innocence, a feeling that people were invulnerable, that their lives were safe. And now, somehow, because of what was happening to us, to Adam, they knew that they weren't. Hey Trisha. Hey Nikki, I'm kind of new here, but I love your content. You're funny also when you were I agree with you. Like this subject is so hard. It's really bad, And I'm glad I'm hearing about squirrels and stuff. It's a little bit, but I need some laughter, right? With all that's going on with the world today, I totally agree with you, Trisha. Hey Nana. It was hell. I didn't know the difference between day and night. There was nothing but anxiety and the feeling that my physical body was evaporating. By this point, I was running on adrenaline. On pure, scared, terrorized love for my child, but as each day went by, I kept up the brave front. I'm more optimistic than ever, I told the reporter. The Hollywood police are following tips that they don't want me to get excited about, but I'm sure Adam will be coming home. I was dealing with it, but I knew the odds were getting worse and worse. If you were even moderately sophisticated, you could see what was going on in the police department. They were sinking. They were getting the feeling, and I was getting the feeling, but I was still driving the train. I was the one pushing, the one trying to turn a little snowball into a great big avalanche. By the middle of the second week of the search, I was still a long way from being able to face my wife and say the words, Adam might... Oh, trigger warning. I don't want to think about this either, but... By the middle of the second week of the search, I was still a long way from being able to face my wife and say the words, Adam might be dead. But now I knew it was a possibility. More than anything now, I need to know where he was. Dead or alive, I needed to know. I had to know. I was bound and determined that I could find my son and that I would get him back alive. But then I started to lose that sureness because no matter what I was doing, how much money I borrowed, how many friends I brought in, I still wasn't getting him back. So instead of being desperate just to get him back, I became desperate to find out what had happened to him. Hopefully alive, but if dead, then I needed to know. Because I was starting to have the sinking feeling that he might be dead. That's so heartbreaking. Oh, thanks, Brenda. Hey, Teresa. You're in the kitchen. You might as well put your bed in there. I'm just kidding. She's always cooking. Betty Crocker is her nickname. That's awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I began to say it to myself when I fell into my darkest fears, and I may have said it out loud once to Jeff O'Regan. Nobody keeps a 6.5-year-old boy for 10 days. Nobody does. But we were keeping up the search. One man painted the side of his van with the slogan, "We are looking for Adam Walsh." A member of the Guardian Angels called to meet with us so that he could help them develop a strategy for searching in Dade County. A Miami woman whose teenage daughter had disappeared in '84 sent us a check for $100 and told us not to lose faith. I think so too, Crystal. I think so too. That and he does know the law and stuff, and it, I guess common sense would tell you, and with the police and stuff, after 24 hours, that's bad enough. But then if you're reading 10 days, the worst is to be feared, 10 days. That's, yeah, I think I wouldn't want to admit it, but I know I would feel that deep down. Same as him, same as John and his wife, and just know something's wrong. But I would want to know what happened and where he was. Oh, chili cheese dogs. Damn. Actually, it's getting colder. I need to make me some chili. One day, when I was up on the third floor command center at the police station, they came in and took me off to the side to a quiet place. I don't remember when it was, day 3 or day 7, I don't know. A man came in and was introduced to me as Dr. Ronald Wright, the Broward County medical examiner. They sat me down at a table and brought out a big loose leaf binder and said, "This is a book of sex offenders who have been released on parole into this community." And I said, "Sex offenders? What do you mean? They release perverts?" That would be my questions exactly. You know they have more rights than any of us do. It's not right. That was when Ronald Wright first spoke. "John, they do it all the time. These guys get a slap on the wrist. They don't do serious jail time." What did these guys do? Trigger warning. They RAPE little girls and they RAPE little boys. They're called pedos. What's a pedo? It's someone who enjoys having sex with children. Who could enjoy having sex with a child? How could a grown man have sex with a 3-year-old girl? How could you even do it? Oh, they do it, John. They do it. They hurt these children and they love doing it. It's their preference. Oh my God, it's fucking gross. Then they handed me the book and said, "You've got to look at these pictures and tell us if any of these guys have been to your house. You've had people in to work on your house. You have gardeners. If anybody in this book looks familiar, if you've seen any of them in your neighborhood or hanging around Adam's school, then we might have a suspect. It might have been a pedophile who grabbed Adam." Hey, Lori. I still wasn't quite getting it. Not yet. I said, "Why would they grab Adam?" Oh my God. To have SEX with him. They're into doing that with children. With a 6-year-old boy. Absolutely. Don't they stay in prison a long time? No, John, they don't. They do a year, maybe 2 years. There are guys in this book who have been arrested 14 times and released, back out on parole. They live all over Hollywood. See, that really, 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 really fucking pisses me off. Really pisses me off. I think they should get the death penalty because you can't change these people. These pedophiles have more protections than, yeah, SD, they do. They've got way more protection than these poor kids. That's disgusting. And I said, "But that's not possible." Then I looked at the book they'd given me, and there were 200 photographs in it. I had known that there were mugshot books of guys who've been convicted of RAPE, and that when burglaries happen, they show victims the books of burglary suspects. But this I could not believe. I looked at the photographs of these scumbags, and a lot of them actually looked like regular guys, like grandfathers. There was obviously no way to tell a child molester just by looks, because the way they looked was like everyone else. I studied every mugshot in that book, but I didn't see anyone I recognized. And finally, I began to understand what they were trying to tell me. One of these monsters could have Adam. Yes, they said. That's probably who's got Adam. Exactly. So how the fuck is this even... How's that even right? I'm sorry, but I would kill the bastard. I would. If someone messed with my son like that, I'm sure any of us would, right? Everyone. You do something like that to our child. I'm sorry, but you're going to go in the ground. 14 times, and yet they're allowed out. Oh, thank you, Brenda. I keep messing with buttons and kicking myself off. I've done that so many times. I was just being chilly. State will drive them to the state line and tell them to never come back. These laws need to be strengthened for children. Absolutely. I don't understand how this is still able to go on, you know? Exactly. I know I would. Anybody touched my boy. The person who did it, I'm telling you, whether I'd go to jail for it or not, I don't give a shit. They would be dead. I wouldn't stop. I don't think any of us would. They do need, they need street justice. But thing is, they're so protected, we're not allowed to know. Even in Canada, we're not allowed to know who they are. I don't even know if there's anyone living in my neighborhood because they are fucking protected. Trust me, I've looked, I've asked. I'm not entitled to that, apparently. They have rights. Yeah, right. They got rights, all right. They got a right to get a punch in the fucking head. Until that time, even though I had thoughts in my hearts of hearts that I was not admitting, I was still trying to convince myself that some wonderful grandparents had Adam, that they had taken him up to Disney World because his favorite ride was Pirates of the Caribbean. It's all right, Teresa. You're cooking. No. Don't worry about it. Don't burn anything. Sometimes I totally support vigilante. Yeah, so do I. I know exactly what you're talking about, SD, and that's why I think after this book, yeah, I'm going to do it. Absolutely. But now I knew that it was all bullshit. I was deluding myself. I was in denial. I wasn't facing facts. I knew at the time, one side of me was saying, no one could hurt this gentle, beautiful little boy. If they had him for even an hour, they'd know how special he is. If they talked to him for 15 minutes, no matter what kind of monster they are, they couldn't hurt this little boy. This is one of God's children. Oh, yeah. You're going to come up too one day, right, Lori? We're going to do a live together. Why did the FBI hand my CPDV brother with VOP and they hand him off to a special agency? This is not going to jail. Just want to get rid of him. Florida hates him because Florida hates him. Makes me safe. Wow. We can find out where sex offenders live in my state. I can actually see who lived close to me. I know you guys can, and yet in Canada's laws are, they're good in some areas, and then the others you don't make sense. Like if someone broke into my house and I happen to have a gun and I killed him, I'm going to prison. It's bullshit. If I stab them, I'm going to prison. We're not allowed to know if any pedophiles are living around us for the safety of our children. No, God forbid. They've got more rights than we do. It pisses me off. Like bad. You can too, Brenda. Oh, I'm high dressed as I open the shelters. I am safe and will be riding it out due to hit me. Oh no. I'm sorry. And that's, yeah, exactly. What about the ones that don't register and then get caught for not registering and they don't, nobody does or says anything. It's like, oh, you forgot to do that? You're what, grounded? Hey, Amanda. And then there was the other side of me, the other voice. The next night, for some reason that I don't understand myself, I went back to talk to Ronald Wright again. I don't know why. I just needed to. And it was during that conversation that he first said to me, you've got to accept the fact that Adam might be dead. Of course, Adam wasn't dead. He was with a wonderful grieving mother whose child had been hit by a car or a lovely pair of grandparents. Ronald Wright said, you have to accept the possibility, John. I've got 4 girls up in the Broward County morgue, all homicide victims. They range in age from 13 to 16. I believe they are all runaways. A couple of them, again, trigger warning, a couple of them were tortured very, very badly. Florida law says that after 6 months, I've got to bury them. And if I don't know who they are, they go in a Jane Doe grave. John, all over the country, there are people buried who no one knows. 6,000 of them in Pottersfield in New York alone. Wow, that is heartbreaking. So what I do is I hold bodies up at the morgue on my own for a year and a half, on the chance that a grandparent, a brother, a sister, any one of them, of those runaway girls, might somehow find their way to us. Somebody loves those 4 girls here in the morgue. Somebody does. How can I bury them if no one knows who they are? And I said, I'm certain that someone loves them. I know that somebody does. Yeah, I definitely would, Lori. He kept talking. I'll tell you something, John. You've got to accept the reality that in the state of Florida, coroners exchange information about unidentified bodies only on a voluntary basis by mail once every 6 months. There is no system. It's all voluntary. And this is only within Florida. There are 49 other states. Do you mean to tell me that the same country that put a man on the moon, the same country in which I can go into my office and access the Japanese stock market in 5 seconds, that in this country there is no way to identify these dead children? John, there is no such thing as a comprehensive unidentified dead file anywhere. The FBI has a few cops who voluntarily track these kinds of things if a coroner is mentioned in a file. For instance, they'll take the information, but they don't solicit it. They don't seek it out. There's no system. Nobody's really looking for Adam except you and your friends and the Hollywood police. If he's in a morgue in Tallahassee or Jacksonville, one in the Florida Panhandle, there's the chance that, at least for a while, you may not even hear about it. It is not inconceivable that he could be buried in an unmarked grave. That's bad. Wow. Ronald Wright told me that the only option I had was to expand the area of our search. I said, but I have. I've been up in the West Palm Beach on TV. West Palm Beach? What about Georgia, John? What about South Carolina and New York? He was right. People in those states wouldn't have known that Adam Walsh was missing. The only people who had ever heard about Adam's disappearance were ones living in Florida. His story wasn't in the Washington Post or the New York Times. None of those newspapers' readers knew that Adam Walsh was missing. That was when I realized something for the first time, that if Adam was dead, then there might be a way that I could at least get his body back. At least I might have to wait 6 months to find out if he had been murdered. If his little body was in the morgue somewhere in Oklahoma or Texas or Louisiana. Ronald Wright said, if there's a system in other states, I don't know about it. I'm just a county coroner. If I want to find out the identities of these 4 girls in my morgue, who do I send flyers out to? To what agency? To every parent in the United States for $9 zillion? John, the electric media is your best bet. And that's when it dawned on me. We would take this search national. We're on chapter 6 now. This one's called The Police. The cops meant well. They were a tiny local police agency that had limited resources and had never manned a search anywhere near this size. It didn't seem to me that they really knew what they were doing, but they were caring and well-intentioned, at least in the beginning. We had no question about that. We did have a gut intuition that mistakes were being made. Everything seemed so chaotic and disorganized, and certain guys in the press were sidling up to me on the sly saying, you know, John, this thing ain't going so good. The rank and file cops were serious about looking for Adam. The boy squad cops, undercover narcotics cops who looked like dirtbag hippies with pigtails and ponytails, were working straight 24-hour shifts to find him. If a reporter walked in, they'd run into the detective bureau so their cover wouldn't be blown. Then they'd come back in to finish talking with me, and the press guy had gone. These street-level cops were the ones telling me, well, we've got an informant over here we're going to go out and talk to. And then there's the other guy we figured we can roust. They were out shaking down suspects and lowlives. They were the ones who knew about pedophiles and child molesters. They were street smart guys, not shirt and tie detectives. And privately on the side, they were saying, John, these detectives are taking down police calls on matchbook covers. This is the most disorganized search we've ever seen. It was not until Thursday, 4 days after Adam's disappearance, that the Sears security guard, a teenage girl named Kathy Schaffer, was finally interviewed. 4 days after? She told police that on the day of Adam's disappearance, 4 older boys, 2 white kids, and 2 black had been playing with the video game in the toy department. They had started causing a ruckus, and she separated the kids, putting the 2 white kids out the west door and the 2 black kids out the north door. She wasn't sure, but she thought that the younger of the 2 white boys might have been Adam. If Adam had been put out the west door, he would have been completely disoriented because the only entrance he knew was the north side door that he always came through with Reveille. If Adam had truly been forced out of the store, then it seemed pretty logical that whatever had happened to him had begun to happen then. The search should have followed that track, but with all the chaos that was going on, it didn't. A week later, Dick Hines, the HPD supervisor of detectives, gave an interview to the Hollywood Sun-Tattler. He said that lots of calls and tips were coming in, but we wouldn't know where to direct them to. Considering the time lapse involved, Adam could be anywhere in the world by now. We don't have proof that he's dead. We don't have proof that he's alive or he's been kidnapped. We just don't know. The scariest thing of all was that it was completely true. I remember about 55 years ago when my family passed by a search party for a girl about my age then. They never found her. Remember, it It was like yesterday. It still bothers me. Yeah. Stuff like that sticks with you because it's so real. You don't expect it. We soon learned firsthand what every cop investigating the disappearance of a child already knows, that until they are definitely cleared, all family members have to be considered possible suspects. During the second week of the search, the police broached the subject of giving me a polygraph. I immediately agreed. It was standard operating procedure. We understood why, and no one had a problem with it. Joe Matthews, a detective from Miami Beach who was an expert in administering lie detector tests, was invited by the HPD. He had worked hundreds, if not thousands, of homicide cases, and even though the HPD had a few guys on staff who knew how to give polygraphs for a case this high profile, they wanted what Matthews was, the best. On the morning of Friday, August 7th, I went over to the detective bureau and did what Joe called a pre-test interview. We sat down together in a room by ourselves, and he started asking me everything about my family and my life, everything. I answered all the questions and volunteered anything I could think of, regardless of how irrelevant it seemed. The questioning went on all day and into the night, for more than 7 hours. I told Joe everything about my father, how much I loved him, how I was raised, about my relationship with Reve and our friends, my job. I even told him about how back in college I'd smoked marijuana a few times and tried LSD. Joe filled his report addressed to HPD Captain Robert Mowers. As per your request, on Friday, August 7, 1981, an extensive interview with specific polygraph examination was conducted on Mr. John Walsh. Said polygraph examination was conducted to determine if, in fact, he was criminally involved or had guilty knowledge as to who was responsible for the abduction of his son, Adam Walsh, which occurred on or about July 27, 1981. The following are excerpts from his interview. After his father passed away, he brought his brother, who is 22 years old now, and sister, who is 30 years of age, to South Florida. At this time during the interview, Mr. Walsh became emotional concerning the pressure that has been on him in reference to caring for his family and the supporting of his mother. He stated that he feels personally obliged to help everyone, especially family members. He said at times he feels he's being taken for granted, but after expressing this to this examiner, a feeling of guilt came over him, and he said he really does not mean it. He loves his family very much, and since this is the first time he has had a chance to express himself, he's letting everything out, even though he does not mean it. He stated that for the past 2 years, since he had spent less time working, he found that his relationship with his wife has improved, and he became closer to his son, Adam. Mr. Walsh stated that he believes his wife has always been very loyal to him and his son. He reiterated the fact that she's very close to his son, Adam, and loves him very much, and both he and his wife, Reve, are very protective of him. When Mr. Walsh was also asked who resided in their house, he said that he, his wife Reve, their son Adam, and a close friend by the name of Jimmy Campbell. He described Mr. Campbell as being 25 years of age, and he has known him for over 10 years. Subject recalled that they met when he worked as a beach boy at the Diplomat Hotel. Jimmy was 12 or 13 at the time, and he used to spend his time at the Diplomat doing odd jobs just to be near the ocean. Jimmy liked to surf and was very much into driving. Subject stated that Jimmy always looked up to him and confided in him, and he honestly feels that he is Jimmy's only true friend. Campbell also goes by the name of Dudley. The Walshes gave him that name because he was so helpful and always there when he needed. He was their Dudley Do-Right. Mr. Walsh realized that even though Jimmy Campbell's father did not kick him out of the house, he was not really accepted, and the father preferred that he did not live there. After he and Reve married, since the Monahans were mutual friends of both Jimmy Campbell and Mr. Walsh, Jimmy would come by their house and visit. After his son Adam was born, the visits were more frequent, and Mr. Walsh didn't mind this, for he felt that his wife and son were left alone, at home, unprotected during the night, and if Jimmy Campbell stayed there, he would feel that his family was being protected. At first, he would occasionally pay Campbell for some of the time he spent there babysitting and doing minor repair work around the house. As time went on, Mr. Campbell spent more and more time there each day, and before anyone knew it, it was taken for granted that he was living there. Mr. Walsh stated that not only did he like and respect Mr. Campbell, he and his wife decided that he would be their child's godfather, for they realized the sincere love he had for Adam. Mr. Walsh stated that Dudley is Adam's godfather and is totally distraught. Mr. Walsh stated that he knew Adam was alive and well, and that he would get him back. He stated, "Whatever you want me to do, I will do." Dudley stated to Mr. Walsh that the police probably think he is distraught running around with psychics. He would say to me, "John, tell me what to do." Mr. Walsh stated that he has seen Dudley by himself crying, and he has told me not to give up hope. Dudley has done everything everyone has asked him to do. In the beginning, Walsh stated, he and his brother Joe thought they would find Adam. Dudley was not living with them at the time. It was an exhausting, draining, difficult interview. But most struck Joe about it, as he said later, was that I've been willing to lay bare my soul like that. Expose every most private thoughts and feelings for one reason and one reason only, because I was willing to do anything in my power, anything to help get my son back. After the pre-interview came the actual polygraph exam. Joe hooked me up to some electrodes and arm cuffs and asked me a series of questions. Did I intend to answer truthfully? Do I know who took Adam? Did I conspire with anyone to cause his disappearance? Was I withholding information from the police? Then Joe read the polygraph charts, compared my answers to the baseline interview, and concluded that he could say with certainty that I had played no role in Adam's disappearance. A few days later, Reve was interrogated too. The cops were looking at clues, which there were none of, and the facts were not very many of, and basically trying to get the caseload off of their desks. Who can we put this on? If we can't find out who did it, if there are no concrete clues or physical evidence, where do we go next? What's the next best thing? They were fighting criticism and panic from the community, trying to keep everything calm and under control. Reve went over to HPD and the cops took her into the back. The first few times she was in a fighting mode, but after a while she was in slumped over, beaten up, broken down. For her, it was like having salt poured on the wound. The cops would ask her, well, what did you do on that day? And she would tell them again and again. They were grappling at straws. They told her that this lady in the office of St. Mark's said that Adam wasn't with her when she went in to drop off his tuition check. She remembers you, but she doesn't remember seeing Adam, they said. Then they said that no one in the store remembered seeing him with her either. So all of a sudden, there were no witnesses at all who had seen Adam with Reve. Reve knew full well that Adam had been standing behind her in the office at St. Mark's, and the woman hadn't noticed him because she was busy talking on the phone. Reve finally put the check on the desk and left. And in a Sears store, why would anyone have noticed him? He wasn't loud. He wasn't doing anything to draw attention to himself. He didn't sass the security guard. He wouldn't have made a fuss when she was told him to leave. Reve knew that what the truth was, even if no one believed her. She and I didn't have lawyers or a PR firm. All we knew was that whatever time the cops spent investigating us was wasted time because it could have been spent looking for Adam. We knew that the cops were looking at James Campbell too. In those days, Jimmy was running the sailboat rental concession at the Golden Strand Motel in Miami Beach, and we considered him a friend. What I couldn't understand was why the cops were leaning on him so hard. Rumors were even circulating that the cops had beaten him up in the interrogation room. Actually, what Dick Hines had told the papers was that they were being so rough on him that they were on the verge of violating his constitutional rights. I was defending Jimmy Campbell to the cops, telling them that he would never have done anything to hurt Adam, but they didn't care. They just kept pounding away at him. I couldn't understand why they just kept after him, why they kept calling him and then leaning on him, why they wouldn't just leave him alone. Then I found out why. It was because at the time, they all knew something that I didn't. What they knew was that Jimmy Campbell had been having an affair with my wife. Ah, shit, really? I figured that was coming. Wow. So the live-in nanny was having sex with his wife. That's real nice. What they knew was that Jimmy Campbell had been having an affair with my wife. During the time that Reve was pregnant with Adam, there was a dresser that needed painting. She wanted to stick some flower decals on it and put a pad on top so that she could use it as a changing table for the baby. I was working enough hours at the time that when the weekends came, I just couldn't seem to get around to helping her with it. And I guess I was that way about doing a lot of things. So one day, Jimmy said, you know, Reve, I'll do it for you. He painted the dresser, they put decals on it, and the changing pad. Reve thought it was really nice of him. She said, geez, thanks a lot. Pretty soon, she wouldn't even ask me to help her with things anymore. She just asked Jimmy or Johnny or Michael. They were the kids. We all hung around together. Them, me, Reve, and the Monahans. After we had Adam, Jimmy came around even more. Not by himself, usually with the Monahan boys. They would come over to see the baby or just stop by to say hello. Then when Reve and I moved out to Miami Shores, Jimmy started coming all the way over by himself. I would ask him to do things in the yard, and I paid him a little bit on the side. But then we were calling Jimmy Dudley because, just like Dudley Do Right, he was always there to help out. Dudley was always happy to help out and so patient with the baby. He really loved Adam. I was traveling all the time. Reve was home alone a lot. I don't know how or when exactly, but years later, somehow the line got crossed. Reve says that she has now grown to the point where she knows that I love her. I guess she didn't know it then. She says that I am the man she always loved, the strong man she looks to as her husband and the father of her children. But at the time, she had somehow believed that for certain emotional things, she would just have to look outside her marriage. She says that it was warped thinking, really sick thinking, and that finally she couldn't stand it anymore. She told Jimmy that it was over, that she and I loved each other, and that we had decided to have another baby. It wasn't an easy thing for her to get out of. She told Jimmy that she and I cared for him, that whatever was between them wasn't going to go any further, that she had made the decision to get her life back on track. And then, 2 weeks after that conversation, her little boy disappeared. That's a bit suspicious, actually. Soon things were already awful. Things that were already awful got even worse. I was just going to say that too. Sorry, I just got a message from my kid's father. Something about people being sick. Oh no. Sorry, it's chicken smith. Oh, great. COVID again? Oh my god, I'm so sick of this crap. Okay, sorry, I just wanted to check on my son. Apparently his nanny and papa are sick. They just got back from a wedding. All right. Soon things were already awful, got even worse. I'd always been the person that Reve confided in, and now there was something important that she couldn't tell me about. She took the blame for it, that she had done this thing, and now, even though it had nothing to do with Adam being missing, it was getting all mixed up with the investigation. It began to derail the search because it gave the cops a ready made motive. They thought that because James Campbell was jealous of me, he had taken Adam, which might have seemed plausible even, except that it wasn't true. I kept defending Jimmy to the cops, telling them that they'd better get off Jimmy Campbell and onto someone else. Or on something relevant to the case, or else I was going to hire a lawyer and do God knows what. I made some pretty serious statements in Jimmy's defense. I really went to the wall for him. But he doesn't know if Jimmy did this or not. That is pretty convenient. You know, she breaks it off with him, and then all of a sudden her son goes missing. The cops kept insisting to Reve that she was going to have to tell me. She kept saying that she couldn't, that she just couldn't do it. Well, you know, it's not like you broke the laws or anything, they said. You can't get arrested for having an affair. In the end, someone else finally told me, not Reve. By then, she wasn't doing anything except waiting for the axe to fall. Totally submissive, completely resigned, ready to accept whatever I felt she needed to do. She knew there was no jurisdiction, no explanation, no cop-out, no excuse. She had known it was wrong. She had done it anyway, and now there was nothing that could be done except to live with whatever I decided to do. I came to a decision that some of this was probably my fault too. I told Reve that I would not leave her, and that was the truth. The important thing was that our little boy was definitely missing, probably kidnapped and maybe dead. That was more important than anything else, even this. I'm not going to spend a lot of time discussing this. It isn't anyone else's business. It was private. It became an issue later because the press made it an issue, and Reve had to answer for it the best she could. I don't know if she spent nights torturing herself about it. Somehow she dealt with it. It wasn't that this thing was small. It was not a small thing. But compared with Adam being missing, it didn't even register if it hadn't been for Adam's being missing in the first place. I might never have known about it. Who would have told me? Not Reve. But after all, there were some things in my life that I wasn't exactly proud of either. By the time I found out about it, I was already over. It was already over. She had ended it. She had already come to the decision by herself that it was over. James Campbell had moved out of our house before Adam disappeared, and that was when Reve said she had ended it. That squared with what she had told me. It was awful, but it did not mean that we deserved what happened to our son. The Weather Channel put Michaels in our town. Now we're going to be directed. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Please be careful. Yeah, I'm wondering that too. Both Teresa and Brenda. Yeah, because that would be that seems like the most plausible thing. What mattered was Adam. The only thing that mattered to me or Reve then, or ever was Adam. James Campbell was relevant to the case because he gave the cops an easy out. The perfect solution. Jimmy Campbell is jealous of John Walsh, so he kidnaps the kid. A big movie ending. Now they had a suspect, someone with a perfect rationale for hurting Adam to get back at me. Once I had this information, everything was a lot clearer. Now I knew why the cops were leaning so hard on Jimmy Campbell, and I knew that it was bullshit. I didn't know to what lengths the police would go to force the issue. I was their biggest mistake. It was their first big mistake, wasting so much time on such a dead-end lead. They thought they had the case solved. It would have made a great crime story, a great ending to a movie, but it wasn't true. It was wasted time and resources and energy, and by that point, all of those things were in pretty short supply. That's weird that he's defending this guy, because I'm sorry, if some chick moved into my house, and she's with my husband, and all of a sudden, my husband kicks her out, doesn't tell me about the affair, and then my son goes missing, you're damn right I'd be blaming him too. Blaming her, absolutely. I didn't know what lengths the police would go to force the issue. It was their first big mistake. Wasting so much time on such a dead-end lead, they thought they had the case solved. Every day when I went to the station, I would say, you guys, you're only the local police. Who's looking for him in Broward County? Oh, everybody in Broward is looking for him. But who's looking for him in Jacksonville? What if he's 100 miles away? They didn't have an answer for me. 4 days into the case, I knew how much trouble we were in. I remember looking at what they called the wire, a big teletype that sat in the middle of the floor. It would say 2 Hispanic suspects wanted for a double murder in Arizona, believed to be heading south. Be on the lookout for a 1956 Chevy. I said to some captain, I've been over here watching this teletype for 2 hours to see if there's anything on it, and all that time, nobody else has even looked at it. He said, we've got our own local problems, In other words, he wasn't really concerned with what was happening in Arizona or Denver, Colorado. Well, if you're not watching The Wire here, who exactly is looking for Adam every place else? Just how many law enforcement people know that Adam is missing? Well, we do. We're looking, and Fort Lauderdale knows, and so does Pembroke Pines. I thought to myself, Pembroke Pines? My son could be in Alaska by now, and those clowns are talking about Pembroke Pines? My son was missing, seriously missing, and I was realizing that my very best law enforcement allies were a bunch of underpaid cops. As well-intentioned gave me a whole lot of confidence, or a lot of hope. My friends and I had on our own already spent 3 days calling every police and sheriff's department in the state of Florida. We had mailed 5 of Adam's missing posters to each and every one of those offices. If we had the authority to call it the National Guard, we would have, but we didn't, so instead we turned to the FBI. On Thursday, July 30th, the 4th day that Adam was gone, John Monahan called a friend in Washington who was the Reagan administration. He asked this guy if he could get some help from the federal government. We didn't even know what kind, just any kind of help. Monahan's friend immediately placed a call to William French Smith, who was the U.S. Attorney General at the time, and who gave assurances that the FBI would become involved in this case. I don't know exactly who called them or when or precisely what made them show up. Maybe it was because there was starting to be so much publicity. But one day in the HPD, Detective Burrow, all of a sudden, a couple of FBI guys walked in. They were wearing suits, always suits. I think they came from Miami or Fort Lauderdale. You could always tell who they were. They didn't look anything like Hollywood police. Mr. Walsh, I'd like to meet Special Agent so-and-so. How do you do? What are you guys doing to help find my son? We are monitoring the case, Mr. Walsh, and we are making resources available to the local authorities who are becoming. Why are you not involved in this case? Why aren't you really in it? Why aren't you assisting in the Hollywood police? Our forensic labs are available, Mr. Walsh, and any resource we have is available to the Hollywood police for their use. But our internal policy is such that we do not routinely become involved in local matters. I said if Adam is outside of Broward County, it's not a local matter. And what if he's outside of Florida? Well, here's the policy, Mr. Walsh. We can quote it to you again. You must understand. I must understand. They said that there had to be either a ransom note or proof that Adam had been taken across the state line in order for them to become officially involved. I said, don't you understand? This is 1981. When was the last big ransom case of kidnapped child that you can remember? The Lindbergh kidnapping? Today, people don't kidnap kids for money. And I'll tell you something else. I will bet my life that whoever has Adam Walsh isn't going to pull off the highway to payphone just so they can call you to let you know that they're taking him across the state line. Of that, I can assure you. And they said, we're monitoring the situation, Mr. Walsh. The Hollywood police have the situation well in hand. Screaming was not going to help. All I could do was demand that the FBI get involved, which I did repeatedly, and they assured me that they would. As soon as they were convinced that something more was involved. More than what? More than that little boy's been missing for 7 days? What? In retrospect, I think they were trying to tell me between the lines was that for them to become involved in Adam's case, the Hollywood police would have to officially invite them. Top CEOs of corporations knew enough to ask for outside help when they are outmanned or outgunned. But the Hollywood police didn't behave like savvy businessmen who knew when it was time to bring in the top-notch consultant or a ruthless hired gun attorney. The whole issue with Adam began a horrible period in Florida when my son was born in 87, and by then you knew to never allow your son to go to the men's room alone. He came into the women's and he got big. Yeah, I've never allowed my son to go into the boys' bathroom. He's 11 now, and if he goes in, I stand right there. I won't, even if I have to go to the bathroom too, I'll wait. But like when he was younger, up until I think like 10 even, I'm like, no. He's like, can I please go by myself? I'm like, yeah. Yeah, right now I'm safe. Yeah, I'm good. It's pretty windy, actually. It's like really, really dark out, too. At one point, even though I never acted on it, I was actually so desperate that it crossed my mind to forge a ransom note myself to bring in the FBI. Instead, I kept on playing the game, pushy but not too insistent, demanding but not too outrageous. When you're not the professional yourself, when you're put in the position of begging for help, then you cannot alienate the people in charge who are looking for your son. I knew one thing, that as much as I wanted to scream and yell, as much as I wanted to hit somebody or throw them out of a third floor window, that if I did any of those things, they would never let me back into the police department again. I was walking a tightrope. In truth, the HPD was already bending the rules, making concessions for us. They did things on our own behalf that would ordinarily never have been allowed. My team and I would just walk right in and go straight up to the third floor, past the holding cells on the second floor, and wait to whoever was manning the window so they could buzz us in. They allowed food and beer to be brought in for those of us who worked all night, and they let the press in for media interviews whenever we wanted. Meanwhile, Dick Hines and Bob Mowers, the captain, spent hours over at the house, just kind of hanging around. Later on, Hines admitted to a reporter that was definitely not normal procedure. We could see early on that this thing was building, and the department could end up with a lot of egg on its face, said Hines, which is why the HPD operation procedure, as Hines himself put it, was closer to CYA, which stood then, as it does now, for cover your ass. The Hollywood Police Department was the investigative agency that I had to work with. I understood that this was their jurisdiction and that we were in charge of the case. And if I saw things I didn't like or things that scared me about how they were doing their job, I had to bite my tongue. I had to swallow my pride. They could have shut me out in 1 minute if I had thrown a fit or said something in the press that they didn't like. They could have thrown me right out. On Thursday, July 30th, someone gave the cops a tip about a late model dark blue van. Someone said they had seen this van with mag wheels, dark tinted windows, and a chrome ladder on the back, cruising the Sears parking lot that afternoon that Adam was abducted. They described the driver as a white male about 6 feet tall with a muscular build and curly dark hair, and said that for a time the blue van had been parked near Reve's car. 2 kids with their grandmother, who was partially blind, said that they had seen the driver pull Adam into the van and speed out of the parking lot. At first, the police tried to track the lead on their own, keeping it out of the press. Then 2 days later, they decided to go public with it in case anyone else had seen something. At the time, it was huge news. Dick Hines, the HPD's chief of detectives, told the papers that it was the first solid lead the police had, and that he was now certain that Adam had been kidnapped. Then a 12-year-old boy said that he had seen the same thing, a shiny blue van pulling up near Adam on the sidewalk outside the Sears Garden section. And after the van pulled out, the little boy said he didn't see Adam anymore. A bolo on the blue van was set out by the FDLE, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. In the first 2 days alone, police searching 50 blue vans. A few days later, it was hundreds. The Crime Stoppers were out looking for blue vans. Florida state troopers were stopping blue vans all over the highways. By August 4th, the police didn't seem so sure about the tip anymore. Hines mentioned in the press that he had some misgivings about the tip. We checked hundreds of blue vans, he said. Some of them have been stopped twice. It's hardly safe to drive a blue van in South Florida these days. A month later, the police confirmed that the actual time that the blue van had been seen in the mall parking lot was around 1:25 p.m., nearly an hour after Adam disappeared, therefore could not have been involved. The blue van thus became a false lead, a bum steer, a dead end, an error, but no one, let alone anyone in the official position, had ever made that clear enough. Instead, anybody in the general public who was following the case simply assumed that Adam had been picked up by somebody in a blue van. On the turnpike, blue vans were still getting pulled over. Newspapers kept mentioning stories about blue vans. People never stopped calling the detective bureau with tips about their creepy neighbor who drove a blue van. By the time, years later, that the paperwork on Adam's case had grown to a 10,000-page file, 2,247 of them, nearly a quarter of those pages with nothing but bulletins and teletype traffic on blue vans. It would be hard to understand how, if anyone did see a little boy matching Adam's description in anything other than a blue van, they might conclude that it couldn't be Adam. No one could have known it was, at the time, of course, but it was the HPD's big mistake number 2. I'll leave early. The hand club is calling. Okay, you be safe, Lori. Please. Please, please, please. Meanwhile, hundreds of tips were still pouring in, even if no one was cataloging or coordinating them. Ray Millette spent a lot of time on the third floor DB with me. He kept his eyes open. John, we're watching detectives on the phone. He said to me one afternoon, and they're running phone tips down on matchbooks and scraps of paper. Well, maybe they collate after a while. I said, maybe they organize them later. No way, John, no way. After that, Les Davies actually went out to a drugstore and bought yellow legal pads for the cops. Here, he said to them, here's some more paper. One day the police came in and out of the blue asked me what Adam would want to drink at an amusement park. A Slurpee, probably, I said. Well, supposing they were out at Slurpees, what would he ask for then? Oh, I don't know, a root beer maybe? Why? The next day, there was a huge story on the front page of the police sketch of a woman with her hair sticking out and a huge white glasses. A lead we have got to follow, said HPD spokesman Fred Barbetta. All because a woman who worked at Fort Lauderdale amusement park had seen a woman with a white boy at the refreshment stand who asked for a Slurpee and, when they didn't have one, then asked for a root beer instead. Wow. Okay, I gotta stop reading. My throat's starting to hurt. My ear's getting really bad. Take some Advil again. But we're getting closer and closer to the end of this book, actually. It's not going too bad. I'll have to take some screenshots and put up these pictures in this book. There's some of John when he was younger with his father, and then there's pictures of Adam when he was really young. Oh my God, he killed a turtle that's like as big as my kid. Why the hell would you do that, John? Yeah, there's lots of Adam. And then there's pictures of... I wish I could see what this guy looked like that Reve had an affair with. pictures of the sharks. No, just a turtle that didn't deserve to have its life taken away. Prick. Yeah, it's all about John meeting people and smiling and shaking people's hands. There's nothing really. And then there's a photo of Otis O'Toole, the man I believe is responsible for my son's murder. Then there's John List and the murders that he did to his whole family. David James Roberts, this scumbag's murder spree was what made me decide to host America. Yeah, it's all me, I. Wow. Yeah, I agree, Brenda. That's what's bothering me. Because, see, I didn't know that either. There is a movie out, and I saved it to watch later for one of my playlists on YouTube. So I was thinking when we're done the book, we should watch the movie too, if you guys want to. I won't monetize it, so I won't have to stop it or anything. We'll just watch it together. If you guys have questions or anything, you can even come on panel with me and we'll just stop it and play it and stop it and play it. I don't need to monetize that. Yeah, like this turtle. I'm a huge animal lover, so when I'm seeing that, it's like, really? Yeah, Dive Master Garfield McCartney and me in Urethra after one of our underwater safaris. And in the background, it says Cape whatever sea hunt underwater. And they caught this turtle that goes up to their hips. Like, why would you do that? Adam in his swimming lessons with his father. Oh my God. Then there's Adam with his favorite captain's hat, you know, the one that was very expensive and not trash like the other one the other kid was wearing. Then there's John and his father, and then there's his father. Yeah, it's all me. There's not. Wow. Yeah, I think the same thing, Melanie. I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you want to watch the movie after this book? I also want to get a hold of, well, I'm working on the Megan part, see if she wants to come up. I don't either. I don't. He's too arrogant and conceited and cocky, and it's all me, I. Yeah, you're, I don't know. I don't like it. I don't get a good feeling. There's a newer movie out showing when the other kids were born. Oh, is there? Do you happen to know the name of it, Brenda? Because this movie I have is what, I think it was made in the 80s or 90s. I don't know. It's older. But I figured we could watch that. It was a TV movie, and it was called Adam. You never liked him, eh? I know, I didn't either. I used to love John Walsh. Seriously. And then once I started reading this book, I realized what an egotistical asshole he was, and he doesn't give a shit about anything but himself. And that's, I haven't listened to a lot of streams that has Megan in them. I've seen a couple things, I've read up on a few things, but I'm trying to wait and, go through it with you guys. So I don't know a whole lot, but for what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing and what I'm reading, he's taken her kids away, his own daughter's kids away. He took her baby, her newborn baby, which was mixed, by the way, half black, half white, took that baby and put it up in foster care and thinks that'll be better than living with its own mother. But yet her other two children, he's got living with him that are white. Tell me he's not racist. Like, wow. Biggest, baddest, bestest, according to him. Yeah, he is. He made me cringe every time I saw him. I couldn't watch the show. See, I didn't know that, Deb. I loved John Walsh. He was the man. He got the bad guys off the streets, And then with talking to other people, it's like, really, Do you see any justice for any black men or women? I'm like, what? Thinking, why are you going to make it about race? They were right. They never featured that on America's Most Wanted. It was about the white political family, the rich ones who, you know what I mean? It was disgusting. Yeah, it's true. Yeah. I think it's on Netflix. What I got from it was he really neglected his family. Really? Okay. I'll have to look that up. Yeah, he put her newborn baby in foster care. He did, but yet he's got custody of her other two kids, which are white. But this baby is mixed, black and white, and he put that baby fresh out of the womb, okay, into foster care. How could you do that to your own daughter? Take her kids from her. And he's got, he's got some pull where he lives. They think he's a freaking rock star. So they listen to whatever he says. You know what I'm saying? He's got a lot of pull with the police department. She's got no, that's why I want to interview her. Not even, just let her speak. Yep, I agree. Definitely racist. He hosted the show because he was the perfect victim. White, wealthy, and pretty. Yeah, and that's all who he would feature on his show too. There's no, you don't see any of it. Like any mixed race, nothing. Any race other than white was never on that station, like never on that show ever that I can remember. There was a lot of stories where they were black, like Mexican, Oriental, anything like that. They were they were the robbers, they were the murderers, but there was never a family like that ever, like a different anything. They're black, purple, pink, or yellow. They were never victims. They were the instigators. It was disgusting. Exactly. I agree, Mel. I get bad vibes from John. I have followed that story and watched Megan. I watched the video where she's showing them taking the baby. I haven't seen it yet. I'm waiting to go through it with you guys. I'd rather do that. That way, well, at least you'll know my experience will be with you guys, and that my attitude towards it, and I don't want to go through it and then I don't want to watch everything and read everything and then then go on here and do it. No, I'd rather be surprised. Learn as I go on, because I'll have questions too, which some of you may be able to answer for me. Oh, that's got to be awful. Because he stated that she was unfit to raise her children. So he was able, with pull with the police department, to take her two white kids and keep them as his own, and then put the half black one in foster care, a newborn baby. And I don't understand why she's unfit to raise these children, because I haven't, like I said, I haven't really dwelled into it. Say Asian, not Oriental. I don't know what to say anymore. Honestly, like, I don't know what's offensive or not. I try and not be offensive, but if Asian is okay, I'll say that instead. I don't want to be defensive or anything. I'm not trying to be. Was she on drugs? I don't get it. Yeah, that's what I want to know. Was she on them? Doesn't seem like it. Gotcha. My bad. You learn new things every day. It's offensive? You just learned that recently. Okay, because I was going to say, since when is it offensive? Like, that's what you would say, right? Besides, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what to say anymore. I feel like maybe I just didn't say anything without sticking my foot in my mouth. But I apologize. I honestly didn't know. What's today? The 20th? Oh my God, tornado, large hail, damaging wind over 60 miles per hour, severe storms after 1 p.m. And this is for September 25th. Well, it's 26th today. And this is Baltimore and Philadelphia. Why am I getting this for yesterday? I don't even live there. That's weird. I don't know what to say anymore. Everything is yeah, thank you for kind of, agreeing with me. I don't know. I'm learning every day. I didn't know you could. I thought that's what you would say because I assumed Asian was for just one specific. I thought Oriental was. I don't know. Can you even say black? Like, is that? I said black. Is that offensive? I don't. You didn't know it was offensive? Okay, because I didn't know either. It's like, okay, I'm sorry. Black is okay. Nice freaking name. Oh my god. What the hell? Oh, it changes every day to day. I can't keep. Yeah, I can't keep either. There's no. Apparently now it's people of color. What they gotta stop. Whoever's doing the change on these names needs to stop because I don't know what's right and what's wrong anymore. So saying black is offensive, and apparently it's people of color, and you are a black person telling me this. So okay, I'll listen to you. You would know. What the hell is your name? Okay, don't say black. Don't say Oriental. Yeah, all I can do is learn. I thought black was okay though. I thought we were back to being allowed to say. Okay, I don't know. I won't then because I thought people like the POC was actually not racist, but almost like mean because that's what they used to say in the olden days or something, and it was like back when there was slavery or something. I remember hearing about that. But if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I won't say it. So I'll no. Do you see the name, Crystal? They used to say color. That's what it was. Okay. I just try to stay in my lane when it comes to race of any kind because I feel like I just stick my foot in my mouth and I don't mean to, but like I don't have a right to really say anything. I don't know. See, I can't even say anything without feeling like I'm gonna offend everybody, so I'm just gonna shut it. Okay, as long as you're not being a dick or trying to be a dick, you're okay. Well, hopefully I didn't come off as being a dick, so I honestly didn't know. I thought we were back to being allowed to say black, but we're not. Okay, so I'll continue with people of color, person of color, right? And Asian instead of Oriental. Okay. You're not easily offended. I went to the mountains in Asheville, New York City today. It was beautiful. Oh, I bet. I haven't even seen a mountain. I would love to go see mountains. My son finally did. He went to that was or Newfoundland. He had a great time. No, don't say sorry, Teresa. I didn't know at all. Like, remember, we didn't know what mongrel meant until JJ told us. Like, we didn't know. Not that we use that term or anything, but I didn't know what that meant. Oh, I know why you said that, Teresa. No, I don't want anybody coming for me either. If I don't know, I don't know. I'm still learning. I think we all are, really. All right, I should go. I got to take some Tylenol or something. My throat and ear is killing me. No, I still didn't call the doctor today either, Teresa. I don't know. This thing is in front of my face. It's on my computer. It says ear doctor. In the bathroom, it says call your ear doctor. And then I I turned it over and I put ear. I wrote ear and I'm still. POC was used way back in the day. I found records for my 7th DGF listed in a census as POC. Okay. So that and black is offensive. But I mean, we're all learning, I guess, right? At least you guys are telling me. At least I can, try and fix it because I didn't mean to hurt anybody. Oh my God, call your ear doctor. I'm gonna forget. I always do. It's her. I only remember when it hurts. It's freaking pounding right now. It's just the left ear. And that medication didn't work. I was on these horse pills that were so big and had so much antibiotic in like one pill. Didn't do anything. So it's something else. It's not an infection. There's something wrong with my ears. I already knew that, but I thought if they were at least infected or something, it would help. It didn't do shit. All right, I'm going to shut up and get off of here. Go take some medicine. Get my son ready for nighttime. I think I'm just going to take him in my room, watch a movie with him. Something funny. They arrived back. I guess it's like bell bottoms. They come back in style every 20 years or so. Yeah, we're learning every day. What's TMJ? I have tinnitus or tinnitus, however you say it, that causing ringing in your ears. It is so bad. It's been so bad for the past month. Like I always have it, but this past month, it's been really, really, really bad. It's generic, and there are Hispanic, Black, Mexican, Asian, Puerto Rican, Filipino, etc. Yeah, I've got something wrong with my jaw. It's on the left side too, right where my ear is hurting. I've been dealing with this for years though. But I'm getting an MRI and everything done, so hopefully we'll figure it out. Yeah, I'm sure I'll feel better. All right, yeah, I'm gonna go up here. Is that what it is? Lockjaw istemitis? Oh, see, I don't know. I looked it up and I went to my doctor and said, I think I have this. It would make sense. My ears are constantly ringing to the point it's driving me insane. And my jaw hurts. I had to get a mouth guard made to fix, like almost like line my jaw. It's constantly clicking and aching. And it was all on my left side. And now it's just even worse. Okay, you guys have a good night. I need to go. Thanks for hanging out with me. What is today, Monday? I don't know what I'm doing tomorrow. I don't have any live scheduled, so I don't know. I might just pop on. All right, you guys have a good night. I will see you Wednesday, though, at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. I got a KJ video for us to watch. It's one of her IG ones I found. So this will be fun and interesting. All right, you guys have a good night. Bye.